I used to believe that I could never become that kind of person. The kind who loses control. The kind who lets emotion eclipse reason. The kind who doesn't stop until it's far too late. But here I am, telling this story with a voice that still trembles. Not because I want forgiveness, but because I need to remember every single second of how it all fell apart. He was 18. Barely. Just old enough to make everything feel technically okay. Just young enough to make everything completely wrong. I was his tutor. He was my student. That should have been the end of it. And for a while, it was. We talked about math. Literature. I corrected his essays. He scribbled jokes in the margins of his notebooks. He smiled too easily. Laughed too gently. And I didn't see it coming. Not then. I'd just come out of a long, bitter relationship. Years of being overlooked. Dismissed. Treated like I was only ever almost enough. And then there he was. Bright. Curious. And listening. Listening in a way I hadn't been listened to in years. With his head tilted slightly. Like he wanted to understand me. Not just the lesson. I told myself it meant nothing. I told myself this was normal. I told myself I was imagining things. But the truth? I wasn't. I didn't cross the line all at once. I don't think anyone ever does. It happened slowly. Quietly. Like the way your eyes linger a second longer. Or the way you start wearing lipstick you haven't touched in months. Or how the silence after he leaves suddenly feels unbearable. And then one day, you're laughing a little too long at one of his jokes. He's leaning in a little too close. And you realize, the air between you isn't empty anymore. It's electric. I tried to ignore it. Swallowed it like a bitter pill. Because I knew better. I knew what I was supposed to be. Professional. Responsible. Mature. But what no one ever tells you is, responsibility doesn't feel like a shield when you're lonely. It feels like a cage. And he felt like air. I still remember the moment it shifted. It was raining. He forgot his umbrella. I offered to drive him home. He said yes, too quickly. I should have said no. I should have kept the windows rolled up. Should have kept the music off. Should have told him this wasn't okay. But instead, we sat there, listening to the storm. And for the first time, I didn't feel like his tutor. I felt like a woman. He looked at me like one. And God help me, I liked it. That night, nothing happened. Not physically. But everything changed. After that, the line blurred. Every smile felt loaded. Every touch, accidental or not, buzzed under my skin. And every time he said my name, I forgot how to breathe. Some people would say, he was legal. It's not wrong. But legality is a shallow line. Ethics run deeper. What scared me wasn't the law. It was that I knew better. I chose not to stop it. And that haunts me. You might think this is a love story. Or maybe a scandal. You might already be judging me. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you've been there, too. In that gray place. Where your heart aches for something your mind can't allow. But this isn't about just desire. Or guilt. It's about what came after. Because there's something I haven't told you yet. Something I buried. Deep. For years. And if he ever finds out, it will destroy him. And maybe that's why I'm telling this now. Before he ever hears it from someone else. Because once, I believed we shared a secret. But the truth is, he was never the one hiding. I was. So, why did I do it? Why did I let it go too far? Why did I risk his future, his trust, for a few moments of stolen warmth. And if I told you the whole story, would you still see me as a monster? In the next part, I'll take you back to the day we met, to the way it started. So ordinary, so harmless. But every fire starts with a single spark. And this was the match I never should have lit. Stay with me, because the worst hasn't come yet. I didn't expect him to look like that. Tall. Not awkward. Not shy. And those eyes. God, those eyes. They didn't belong to a boy failing calculus. They belonged to someone who had seen too much for his age. He was 18. But something in him felt older. Like he'd already learned to be careful with his heart. We met in the back room of the community library. It was supposed to be temporary. 6 weeks. 3 sessions a week. Strictly academic. He'd just transferred schools. Barely passed his midterms. His mother was panicking about college applications. And I needed the money. I didn't ask questions. I never do. Just another student. Just another job. Except he wasn't. His name was Eli. He introduced himself like he didn't trust the sound of his own name. Soft. Almost embarrassed. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm not good at this." I assumed he meant math. But now, I wonder if he meant connection. Our first session was quiet. He barely looked at me. Chewed the edge of his pencil. Kept his hoodie on even though it was warm. He got frustrated easily. Sighed between every problem. His handwriting was messy. But his logic? Sharp. Quick. He wasn't stupid. He just didn't try. I asked him why. He shrugged. Doesn't matter. I don't know why that bothered me. But it did. Maybe because I saw too much of myself in that answer. I started giving him extra exercises. He didn't ask. I just wanted to see what he'd do. He did them. Every time. Came back with questions. Frustrated, yes, but engaged. There was a fire in him. And I was drawn to it. Not romantically. Not yet. Just a flicker of something. Recognition. Curiosity. And maybe loneliness answering loneliness. We began to talk. Not much. Just in between problems. He asked about my coffee order. Told me his favorite band. Made a stupid joke about Newton's laws. I laughed. Too hard. He noticed. And I hated that he did. One day, I mentioned a book I loved. He actually read it. By the next session, he was quoting it. He wasn't trying to impress me. It didn't feel calculated. It felt honest. Like he just wanted to be understood. After that, our lessons changed. Not in structure. But in tone. We sat closer. Talked longer. Sometimes, we went past our scheduled hour. Neither of us seemed to mind. His hand stopped fidgeting. His eyes started holding mine longer. Still, I told myself it was nothing. But then came the question. Why are you always alone? It hit me like cold water. He didn't ask it casually. He didn't smile when he said it. He just looked at me. Like he saw something I didn't want anyone to see. I didn't answer. Not really. Just said I liked the quiet. He didn't push. But the way he looked at me that day, it stayed with me. I started dressing nicer. Just a little. Mascara. Earrings I hadn't worn in a year. Nothing inappropriate. Just better. More awake. More visible. I didn't admit it to myself. But I knew who it was for. He began to smile more. Open up. Tell me about his father who left. His mother who worked nights. His younger brother who cried in his sleep. He carried too much. I wanted to lift it off him. Even for a moment. Is that so wrong? One afternoon, he lingered after our lesson. Said he didn't want to go home just yet. Said the house felt empty when no one was yelling. I nodded. Offered to walk with him to the bus stop. We talked about nothing. The weather. The music playing faintly in someone's car. But everything felt louder. The wind. His breath. My heartbeat. I said goodbye too slowly. He looked back twice. And then, he smiled. Not like a boy. Not like a student. Like a man. That night, I didn't sleep. Played the walk over and over. Tried to convince myself it meant nothing. But I knew better. I could feel the line. Faint. Shifting. Waiting. What do you do when a part of you wants to cross it? And worse. What do you do when you realize it might not just be you? Somewhere in the silence, we had started saying too much. It was supposed to rain that afternoon. But the sky held back. Clouds hovered like a warning. Gray. Still. Heavy with something unsaid. Like us. We were reviewing derivatives. But neither of us was paying attention. He was sitting closer again. Too close. Our knees nearly touched under the table. Once, his pen slipped. He reached for it. So did I. Fingers grazed. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. I told myself it was an accident. But my heart said otherwise. He smiled. Not cocky. Not embarrassed. Just waiting. We both stayed too long again that day. The librarian gave us a look when she passed. I pretended not to notice. I told him, "You're improving." He shrugged, but his lips curved upward. He liked hearing it. Liked hearing it from me. I knew that too well. He asked if I wanted to grab coffee after. Just coffee. Just two people, not in a lesson. I paused. Just long enough. No, I said. That's not appropriate. He nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't insist. But something shifted in his eyes. Something cold. Like disappointment dressed up as indifference. I told myself I had done the right thing. Maintained distance. Upheld the boundary. But the ache in my chest said otherwise. That night, I looked through our old texts. The ones about homework. The ones that had slowly turned into jokes, memes, book recommendations. I reread them all. Again. And again. I stopped at one. A message he sent a week ago. You make things feel less heavy. I remember reading it back then. And smiling like a fool. Now, it felt dangerous. Like something sacred. Or forbidden. The next session, I dressed simply. Pulled my hair back. Wore flats. No mascara. Tried to feel neutral again. Tried to feel nothing. But the moment he walked in, I forgot how to breathe. He looked tired. Distant. Didn't smile. Didn't joke. Just opened his notebook. Page 32, he asked. I nodded. But my hands were shaking. The silence between us grew louder. Thicker. I asked a question. He answered, flatly. I corrected him. He didn't look up. I praised him. He didn't smile. I asked if something was wrong. He finally looked at me. His voice was low. Measured. You said no. I respected it. That's all. I swallowed. Hard. I wanted to say, it wasn't a rejection, It was protection. For both of us. I wanted to say, it scared me too. Because I feel it too. But I said nothing. Just nodded. And turned the page. He left early that day. Didn't wait. Didn't linger. The chair across from me felt cold when he was gone. That weekend, I got a text at 1:14 a.m. Sorry. I just can't sleep. Do you ever think you're a bad person for wanting something you know you shouldn't? I stared at the screen. Minutes passed. Then an hour. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Because I didn't know if he was talking about me. Or if I just wanted him to be. Monday came. He didn't show up for tutoring. I waited 45 minutes. No call. No message. I told myself it didn't matter. He was just a student. Just another name on my calendar. But I checked my phone all day. And all night. He came back Wednesday. No apology. Just sat down. He looked thinner. Eyes red. I wanted to ask where he'd been. I didn't. Instead, I asked about the homework. He didn't have it. I sighed. Too loudly. He snapped. You don't get to be disappointed. Not when you won't even look at me properly. I froze. He stood up. Grabbed his bag. Started walking away. And I did something I shouldn't have. I reached for his arm. Held it. Just long enough. Just too long. He looked at me. There it was again. That flicker in his eyes. Not childish. Not confused. Just a quiet, wounded knowing. You feel it too. Don't you? I didn't answer. He didn't wait. He walked out the door. And I stood there. Fingers still warm from where he had been. Was this the moment? Was this the line? Or had we already crossed it, somewhere in the silence? It wasn't planned. But parts of me had wanted it. That's what haunts me most. He didn't come for the next 3 sessions. I didn't ask why. But every day, I looked at my phone. Refreshed my inbox. Checked the tutoring app. Nothing. Silence became my punishment. And I let it. The guilt started to rot from the inside. But worse than guilt was the craving. For him. His voice. His closeness. That terrifying tenderness in his eyes. It had settled in my bones. Refused to leave. Then, one Thursday evening, he texted. I need help with the upcoming test. Can you come by? My place. Please. My chest tightened. I typed, we shouldn't. Deleted it. Typed, can we meet somewhere else? Deleted that too. In the end, all I wrote was, what time? His house was tucked behind a narrow lane. Quiet. Empty. He met me at the door. Hair messy. Hoodie loose. Eyes tired. He didn't smile. Just stepped aside and said, come in. I did. His room was neat. Books piled on the desk. Physics notes scattered. A single mug of half-drunk coffee on the windowsill. And the air. It felt like it knew. What we were both pretending not to admit. We went over formulas. His voice low. Mine quieter. At one point, I leaned over to explain a step. He didn't move. Didn't pretend not to notice the way my breath grazed his cheek. He just waited. Then he turned to me. Face close. Too close. And said, you don't really see me as just a student, do you? I could have lied. Could have laughed it off. Changed the subject. Left. But I didn't. I just looked at him. And in that silence, I gave him the answer. His lips were on mine before I realized I had moved. Or maybe he had. Or maybe the space between us collapsed on its own. My hands were on his jaw. His were on my waist. The notebook fell. The lines blurred. And then they disappeared entirely. It was slow. Too slow. Every pause, every sigh, stretched with a kind of desperation. Like we both knew this shouldn't be happening. But still. It did. His shirt came off first. Then mine. We stopped once. He asked, "Are you sure?" I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. Because by then, my body had outrun my mind. And when it was over, he lay beside me. Chest rising. Sweat drying on his neck. He looked peaceful. Young. Too young. I stared at the ceiling. And felt it creep in. That dread. That what have I done? That I crossed it. The line. He turned to me. Brushed hair from my face. Said, "I've wanted this for so long." I didn't speak. Because what do you say? When a part of you wanted it too. But not like this? Not this wrong. Not this irreversible. I got dressed. Quietly. He watched me. Didn't stop me. Didn't say goodbye. I didn't ask for one. Outside, the air was cold. But I didn't feel it. My skin still burned from him. My mouth still tasted like guilt. At home, I scrubbed myself raw in the shower. But some things don't come off. Not with water. Not with time. Especially not shame. The next day, I avoided mirrors. Because in my reflection, I wasn't sure who I was anymore. Not a tutor. Not a mentor. Just someone who let it happen. Who wanted it enough to let it break everything. I kept telling myself. He's 18. It's legal. But laws don't clean the conscience. And age doesn't erase power. I had influence. Control. And I let desire win. That night stayed with me. Still does. Sometimes, in the quiet, I feel his fingertips on my spine. And I want to cry. Not because I miss it. But because I do. And that's the worst part. What if that night was the beginning of something darker than either of us understood? There's a moment when the lie gets too big to swallow. And too dangerous to speak. He texted me the next morning. Last night was perfect. But it wasn't. Not for me. It felt like standing on broken glass. Still bleeding, but too numb to notice. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to. But because I didn't know how. Days passed. He messaged again. Then again. Did I do something wrong? Can we talk? I miss you. I typed. Erased. Typed again. Finally, I sent one word. Don't. He didn't respond after that. For 3 whole days. I thought that was the end. I wanted it to be. Or told myself I did. But endings never come clean when hearts are involved. Especially broken ones. Then, Sunday afternoon, he showed up. At my door. No warning. Just there. In the hallway. Wearing the same hoodie. Eyes darker than I remembered. I froze. He didn't. He stepped in like he belonged. Said, "Why are you avoiding me?" I lied. Said I was busy. Overwhelmed. Work. Life. Stress. He didn't believe a word. He walked around the apartment. Slowly. Like he was trying to memorize it. Then he turned to me. And said, "Do you regret it?" That question felt like a trap. Because the truth was too complicated to unwrap. And the lie was too cruel. I said nothing. He smiled. But it wasn't happy. Right, he muttered. I see. He started to leave. Stopped at the door. Said something I didn't expect. You're not the only one hiding something. And then he was gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. Like it wasn't a threat, but a wound. Bleeding. Unhealed. What was he hiding? And why now? The next time we saw each other wasn't planned. I was walking home from the library. And there he was. Across the street. With a woman. Not a girl. A woman. Late 20s, maybe older. Pretty. Polished. Confident. She touched his arm. He laughed. And my heart stopped. I told myself it meant nothing. But it did. Because the way he looked at her. It wasn't casual. It was familiar. Too familiar. That night, I couldn't hold it in. I texted. Who was she? He took hours to reply. Then. Someone you don't need to worry about. I called. He didn't pick up. I called again. No answer. The next day, I got a message. You crossed the line first. Remember? And that was it. No context. No explanation. Just a sentence that tore through me like glass. I should have walked away. I should have blocked him. Reported myself to the agency. Told someone. Anyone. But I didn't. Because I was addicted. To the danger. The guilt. The way he made me feel things I hadn't felt in years. Then came the real break. He showed up again. Late. Eyes red. Voice slurred. Drunk. Maybe high. He slumped onto my couch. Pulled me into him like nothing had changed. I tried to push him away. He held tighter. Murmured into my neck. I know what this is. You don't have to pretend. I whispered, you're not okay. He laughed. And said something that chilled my spine. You know she used to hit me, right? My dad's girlfriend. The one you saw. I froze. He kept going. She'd lock the door. Touch me. Then hit me when I cried. He smiled. But it was the smile of someone who learned pain too early. I thought you were different. Then he passed out. Right there. On my couch. I didn't sleep that night. Just watched his chest rise and fall. And wondered. Who broke him first? And am I the one finishing the job? Some truths don't shatter you all at once. They carve through slowly. Like a dull knife. The next morning, he was gone. Left without a word. The couch still smelled like him. Whiskey. Tears. And something else I couldn't name. I found his hoodie folded on the kitchen counter. A note under it. Don't look for me. But I did. Of course I did. Because silence is its own kind of scream. I called his phone. Voicemail. I drove past his school. He hadn't shown up. I checked his Instagram. Deactivated. By the third day, panic crept in. Was he okay? Was he spiraling? Was I part of it? I went to the last place I wanted to go. The one place I promised myself I'd stay away from. Her place. She opened the door in a silk robe. Hair tied. Lips red. No surprise in her eyes. Like she'd been expecting me. You're the tutor, she said flatly. Not a question. A statement. I nodded. He's not here. Then a pause. Before she added. He ran away before. Did he tell you that? My stomach turned. He lived with me after his mom died. He hated me. Always did. I asked, why? She smiled. That same empty smile I saw that day on the street. Boys at that age need boundaries. He never liked mine. Her voice was cold. Practiced. Don't believe everything he tells you. She leaned closer. Especially the part where he plays victim. I left. Shaken. Not because of what she said. But because a small part of me believed her. And I hated myself for that. I called him again that night. Voicemail. Texted. Please. Just let me know you're safe. Nothing. Until 2:14 a.m. My phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. A picture. It was blurry. Dark. But it was him. Sitting on a bench. Alone. By the pier. And a caption beneath it. This is where I go when I feel like disappearing. I drove there. No hesitation. He was still on that bench. Looking out at the water. Legs pulled to his chest. Like a child. He didn't look at me. Didn't speak. I sat beside him. Waited. Minutes passed. Then he whispered. She lied to you. I asked nothing. Let him talk. She made it look like I imagined it. Like I was sick. But I wasn't. I remember every fucking moment. He turned to me. Eyes empty. She called it love. Said she was helping me grow. But it wasn't love. It was control. Punishment. And shame. My chest tightened. He kept going. She wasn't just my stepmom. She was my dad's mistress. He left my mom for her. Then she took everything. He looked at me. Including me. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't want to. But because he couldn't afford to see pity. So I just stayed. Beside him. Silent. Still. He broke the silence. Do you regret what happened between us? I turned away. But he stopped me. No lies. I said softly. I regret hurting you. He nodded. I don't regret you. Then he kissed me. Slow. Sad. Like a goodbye. I didn't stop him. Didn't want to. Because in that moment, we weren't tutor and student. We were two broken things. Holding on before everything shattered. When we pulled apart, I asked. What do you want from me? He answered, without blinking. The truth. All of it. There's a line I never thought I'd cross. Until I looked back and realized. I'd been walking on it my whole life. He wanted the truth. But truth isn't always a single thing. Sometimes it's layers. Rotten from the inside out. Soft on the surface. Toxic beneath. I told him I'd meet him the next day. At the house. Not mine. His. The one he hadn't set foot in for months. His father's house. I hadn't been there in years. Not since. No. Not yet. Not until I could find the words. I stood in the living room first. Everything still smelled like old leather and burnt tobacco. His father used to smoke those thin Cuban cigars. Always half-lit, then forgotten. Just like everything else in his life. He arrived late. Eyes wary. Shoulders tense. But he came. That mattered. Why here? He asked. I handed him the photo. The one I had kept hidden in my nightstand for 12 years. It was faded. Edges torn. 3 people in it. A man. A woman. And a little girl, barely 8. That's my dad, he said slowly. And that's. His voice caught. I nodded. Yes. That's your father. And that's me. He blinked. The air in the room shifted. What the hell are you saying? I took a breath. Steady. Measured. But inside, I was collapsing. Your father was my mother's fiancé. They were engaged. Before he met your mom. Before he left her. For someone younger. Richer. She never recovered. Not really. His face was unreadable now. So what? That makes you my, what? Almost stepsister? I flinched. Not because of the word. But because of what I hadn't said yet. It wasn't just a broken engagement. He left her while she was pregnant. His eyes widened. He stepped back. No. I whispered. Yes. For a moment, everything went silent. Even the walls felt like they were holding their breath. He's your father? He choked out. I nodded. Eyes stinging. I never told anyone. Not even him. Not even my mother. She didn't want to ruin his life. But I always knew. I carried it like a second skin. Like shame. He turned away. Hands on his knees. Breathing hard. Like he was drowning on dry land. I reached for him. He flinched. Don't. I froze. Minutes passed. He stood upright again. But he looked different now. Colder. Smaller. So all this time. We're what? Half-siblings? I didn't answer. Didn't need to. He already knew. You knew, he said. You knew. And still. His voice cracked. You kissed me. You touched me. You let me fall for you. I shook my head, tears slipping now. I didn't know how to stop. I tried. I tried so many times. But when I looked at you, I didn't see blood. I saw someone just as lost as me. He backed away. Stumbled slightly. As if my words were blades. You were supposed to protect me. You were supposed to be better. Silence again. The kind that breaks bones. Then, he whispered. What now? I didn't know. All I knew was. The line had been crossed. So far back. We couldn't even see it anymore. Some mistakes, you can't take back. And others. They follow you to the grave. It's been 3 weeks. 3 weeks since I last saw him. Since I heard his voice. Since he called me by my name. I've spent these days pretending I didn't miss him. Pretending the guilt didn't eat at me from the inside out. But pretending doesn't change the truth. I stopped visiting his house. Stopped calling. Stopped looking for answers. I told myself it was for the best. That he needed space. That I needed space. But the truth was, I wasn't running from him. I was running from myself. I wasn't sure where to go anymore. Everything felt like rubble. Like I was living in a house built on lies. And with every step, the walls caved in further. The phone rang one night. My heart stopped. I thought it was him. But it wasn't. It was his father. Are you the tutor? His voice was cold. I didn't speak for a moment. Not sure what to say. I need to know where my son is, he said. He's gone. Vanished. And you're the last person to see him. I told him everything I could. The truth. Half of it, anyway. I told him that his son had disappeared after some time with me. I didn't tell him about the things that happened. The things we'd shared. The things we'd crossed. The silence on the other end of the line grew thick. A long pause. You should have never gotten involved with him, he said finally. That voice. It was so familiar. It was his father's voice. The same one I once heard at family gatherings. Before it all fell apart. The phone call ended abruptly. And I stood there. Frozen. It was then that I realized. His father never truly cared. He never cared about his son's feelings. He only cared about the damage. The damage to his perfect life. The perfect image he had spent so long building. I never saw him again. And I never saw his father either. But in those final weeks, I found out something else. Something I wish I didn't know. It was a letter. A letter from his mother. The woman he had barely spoken to. The woman who had disappeared the moment he turned 18. The letter was short. Almost too short. It was written in a way that made my stomach churn. He's gone. I don't know where. But he's better off without you. It didn't say much. But it was enough. Enough for me to realize. I wasn't the first one to leave him behind. I wasn't the first one to abandon him. It broke me. Because no matter how many times I tried to convince myself I did the right thing. No matter how many excuses I made. The truth was. I had become one more person in his life who walked away. A week later, I heard about the hospital. He'd been found. At a bus station. Unconscious. Broke his wrist in the fall. The doctor said it was an accident. But no one really knew. Not even me. I wanted to visit him. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not after everything. I stood outside that hospital, looking through the window. His face was pale. Lifeless. And yet. He still looked like the boy I knew. The boy I shouldn't have touched. The guilt hit me again. I wanted to turn away. But I couldn't. And then I remembered. I was never supposed to be his salvation. I was never supposed to be the one to fix him. But I wanted to be. I wanted to save him from himself. The phone rang again. It was his father. Again. He's awake. Come see him. But, don't think you're the one he needs right now. That voice. So final. So cold. And I realized. There's no going back. I'd crossed the line. And I would never be able to erase what I had done. Some sins, you carry with you forever. But the hardest ones are the ones you can never forgive yourself for. It's been a month since I last saw him. A month since I stood outside the hospital, watching him from behind glass. A month since everything shattered. They say time heals all wounds. But not this one. I never went back to the hospital. I never called. The silence between us was final. Heavy. The hardest part was knowing that no matter what happened, I couldn't change the past. I couldn't take back the touch. The stolen moments. The love that never should have been. I didn't know how to keep living in a world where everything felt wrong. Where every step forward was a step away from him. I thought about sending him a letter. But I knew it wouldn't matter. He wouldn't care. And even if he did, there was nothing I could say that would make this better. So instead, I spent my days in silence. I buried myself in my work, in the life that was once familiar. But even then, I could never shake the feeling that something was missing. Someone. The phone rang again. This time, it wasn't his father. It was him. His voice was different. Distant. Cold. I need to see you, he said, his voice hoarse. I didn't know what to say. For a moment, I thought about hanging up. But I didn't. Where are you? I asked, trying to steady my breath. I'm at the old house, he said. The one we never talked about. I hung up the phone and drove. The drive felt endless. The roads blurred together as my mind raced. When I got there, he was waiting. Sitting on the front steps of that house we both tried to forget. His eyes were empty, I need to tell you something, he said, not looking at me. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I was ready to hear it. I'm leaving, he said. For good. My heart dropped. Where? I asked, the words catching in my throat. I don't know, he whispered. I just need to go. Away from here. Away from you. Away from everything. I stood there, frozen. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. I don't hate you, he continued. I never did. But I hated myself. And I always would. But I can't be here anymore, he said, standing up slowly. Not with you. Not with this, whatever it is. And then, without another word, he turned and walked away. Into the night. Out of my life. I stood there, watching him disappear into the darkness. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run after him, to apologize. But I didn't. I couldn't. As I walked back to my car, the reality of it all settled in. This was it. This was the end. I'd crossed the line. And there was no going back. The phone rang again. But this time I didn't pick it up. I didn't need to. Because I knew the truth. We were both broken. And there was nothing left to fix. Thank you for listening. For understanding. For watching this story unfold. I don't know what the future holds for either of us. Maybe we'll never cross paths again. Maybe we will. But for now, I'm left with this. A story. A memory. And a broken heart. But maybe that's all we ever were meant to be.